Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays. It's a 1-hour podcast talking about what's going on in the South Florida condo market. I'm Peter Zaleski. I'm a condo consultant. I am an expert witness. I'm also founder of Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner and co-host, Jenny Huertas. She is a broker owner of CVR Realty. Check out her website, CVRRealty.com. What are we talking about today for the next hour? We're going to be talking about Art Basel. It's this international arts festival that came to Miami Beach back in 2002, if you can believe that. It is basically a pop-up marketplace for art, exclusive art. And what happens is a bunch of wealthy collectors come into town. And ultimately, everybody knows these art collectors are also condo collectors. It's a symbolic start to the widespread global appeal of the South Florida winter buying season, which goes from November all the way up until about April or so. So Jenny and I are going to be discussing Art Basel. What was it like? She went out there. She was rubbing elbows with all the fat cats. She was checking out the art. She was riding the free ferry that came from the mainland of Miami over to Miami Beach, which is where the event is held. It's held over at the Miami Beach Convention Center. And from there, we're then going to take a look at what's going on in the Miami Beach condo market. We're going to look at overall Miami Beach, which, remember, it's its own city. It's located on the Barrier Island. Downtown Miami is over on the mainland, about 4 to 5 miles west on the causeway. So we're going to take a look at Miami Beach. We're going to take a look at South Beach, Middle Beach, as well as North Beach. These are the three neighborhoods that basically comprise Miami Beach. So all that being said, let me go ahead and welcome my co-host, Jenny Huertas of CVR Realty. Check out our website, CVRRealty.com. What's going on, Jenny? How are you?
Hey, Peter. Getting out of the cold, but last week, that was the main week. I was sick, but I pushed it all. I pushed, and I was able to check out some art. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice. So walk me through it. So the art exhibit, it's actually 3 days over at the Miami Beach Convention Center. Starts on Friday officially, and then wraps up on Sunday. But that doesn't mean there's not pop-up events all week long. It also doesn't mean that some of the really wealthy art collectors, they don't get a first look. While everything is set up, they get access to this exhibition center. They're able to go around, see what they like, and they get sort of first choice, picking off some of this artwork. And then those people who come basically just to view the art, they have to pay for a ticket in order to get in. So the big question when you're talking to anybody about Art Basel is, did you go to the official exhibition at the Miami Beach Convention Center, or did you go to all the pop-up events that occur on the mainland, on the Barrier Island, all throughout South Florida? So, Jenny, why don't you answer that question for us? Did you go to the actual exhibition center, or did you take advantage of the pop-ups that were everywhere else?
No, well, I went to the pop-ups, but also Art Basel, since Faina exists. They have this outdoor incredible art for years already. Last year was the elephants that they did from the straw. That it was a beautiful thing. They also did some cars with sand. So they always do this public art that is pretty amazing. But this year in particular, and that was on the beach, they also have some of the Art Basel artists on the mainland in the design district. It was one of them. We're having all these pieces all around the design district. I show it in my videos, because I was telling people, if you don't want to go with the traffic, I don't have to deal with that, because the traffic was bad, really bad.
Bumper to
but
bumper, Jenny. Bumper to
bumper to
bumper
bumper.
on the mainland as well as on the beach. And I'm assuming the causeway as well, the MacArthur Causeway, which is the southern causeway,
Yeah.
or the Venetian Causeway, which is the original bridge to Miami Beach. That comes in about 14th, 15th Street or so.
Mhm.
And then the Julia Tunnel, which is actually off of 36th Street on the mainland, but 41st Street on the beach. All of them,
Yes.
from what I heard, are just bumper to bumper. Everybody's basically converging on the barrier island for all of the
Yeah.
art exhibits.
So if you're a local, you know your ways, you know the times to avoid. But I think Miami Beach did a great job with the water taxi because they have a water taxi that goes from the main line at the Venetian Marina uh, to the Maurice Gibbs Park in Miami Beach, and then they have a bus ride to go to the convention center. Every 15 minutes, I think it's from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I was surprised because I said, I'm going to try to go there. I was thinking about taking a bike, but one of my friends didn't want to do the bike. We didn't want to do the Uber because we already knew that it was going to be bad. So we went to the line to do the line for the taxi, and I said, "Oh my God, this is a long line." It was all these the Grand, because the entrance was in Pier 1, which is the farther north pier, which is by the Grand, and we were at the Venetian, so it was like a block away. I said, "Oh my God, it's gonna take a long time." Like every 15 minutes, one taxi will come and go. So, but it really, really was faster because they were not just the water taxis. They were, I think they hired all these other boats that do tours around. So the service was great. We took an hour to wait. We knew it. We were expecting two. And then in 20 minutes, it was a beautiful ride. I mean, not just Miami Beach did a good job, St. Peter did a good job because the weather was fantastic. It was warm, very warm for May, but it was very pleasant at night. And then you get there and you have to walk a lot. Get ready to walk because it's also a lot to see. So what we did is I said, I'm not going to take the shuttle because I don't want to fight to get in the shuttle. Let's take an Uber I know where to go on the boulevard, and then we got off in 41st Street and walked over the bridge and got to Fain.
Okay, so
Before
let me stop
Fain-
you there. Yeah,
Okay.
let me stop you there because you covered a lot. So Jenny mentioned Maurice Gibbs. Who is Maurice Gibbs? That's the same Maurice Gibbs from the band, the Bee Gees. If any of you ever saw the movie Saturday Night Fever, Night
Staying
Fever,
alive,
Night Fever.
staying alive.
That's the band, the three brothers who are from Australia. They actually
Okay.
recorded many tunes here in Miami. They all had their mansions in Miami Beach. I remember when I lived on Miami Beach, you'd be driving around and all of a sudden you'd see him. He had like this lion mane hair with the beard and everything. He'd be driving around in his Rolls Royce just like it was nothing. So I think two of the three have since died, but they actually named the park after the lead singer from the Bee Gees. It's right there off the Venetian Causeway. So if you leave the mainland at about 15th Street or so and you go due east, you're going to go over this Venetian Causeway. It's a whole series of little bridges that are connected by man-made islands. Then you end up on Miami Beach, per se, this barrier island, and right there is the park. So when Jenny jumped on the ferry, she took it from the Grand, which is like this condo hotel complex. I think they have office. They definitely have retail space, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
she caught it there where there's a marina. She then went over to Miami Beach. She was able to get off, and from there she jumped on a shuttle that was set up, and that shuttle took her from effectively 17th or so on the beach, took her up to 41st Street. Why'd she go to 41st Street? She was going to check out Alan Faina's project. This is the project called the Faina House. This is the project where all of the Wall Street titans ultimately came in. They bought pre-construction condos in this complex. Many of them lost their ass. They simply overpaid when they went to sell. The price had plummeted. If you don't know anything about the Faina project or the hotel that's associated with it, it's known because a Russian oligarch who's was part of the original investment group. He had purchased this golden woolly mammoth. You guys know woolly
Yes.
mammoth from like back in the day with the dinosaurs? So he buys this golden woolly mammoth, has it encased in a glass case. He's got no place to put it. So obviously he puts it out at the hotel on the terrace overlooking the sand. So if you ever go to the Faina Hotel, make sure you wander out towards the sand and you will see this big woolly
Yeah.
mammoth. But Alan Faina, project didn't go like he thought. He was one and done. He pissed off. He went back to Argentina, but now he's back and he's trying to build a rental tower, not on the beach, not on the ocean, but on the Miami River. So, Jenny, you went to the Faina complex, which, by the way, is where the new Aman Hotel is going up, just to the north of Faina. Why don't you give us some sort of perspective about what it was like at the Faina complex, or I think they call it the Faina Arts District.
Yes, because he loves art. I mean, I remember, I don't know if you remember, like 2015, 10 years ago, they had this big opening of the art center, and they always been very close to the art. And it's always fantastic, and it's always very opulent. And they always have this, since Faina is there, now more public art came available to people that is visiting. It's free. So a lot of people come and see that art, and they don't go to Art Basel, the main event, because they're not interested in fine art. They're interested to see the artist. They have the option to go or not to. But this year was impressive. Every year is good, but this year was impressive because it was a huge library. It's called the Library of Us, and it was a floating library that moved around, and it was just wonderful. I hope that a lot of people feel like intrigued about reading, because many of the new generations don't read books, paper books. And I hope
what the hell's a book? Can I get it on my smartphone?
Audiobook. Exactly. So that was super cool. But they also have like a good DJ, and they have like a fair, like they have these little bars, and it was a lot of ambience. And next to it, it was another different sort of arts that they were super. They are meant to be interactive, so you can play with it. You can actually read a book there if you want, or you can go to another one that is sound and science, and then you go to the other one that is dancing. So you walk on the way from 41st, and you go down all this public art, and then you go to the Sagamore that is like 16, and they had these beautiful towers that were modern, but they meant to mimic temples, or the antique temples. There weren't many of them. I didn't have time for everything since I wasn't feeling good during the week, but I wish I had more time to see them. But then you go across to Lincoln Road, and then you see a lot of cool art, like up in the ceilings, and then you have like a zoo of it was a zoo there where they're drinking coffee, or the animals. It was called like a wild coffee or something, and it was great. The thing is that everything was happening like in Collins Avenue and everything. And when we got to Lincoln Road, I said, okay, time to eat something. And suddenly I don't see many people in Lincoln Road. The restaurants were not busy. And I was so surprised that we were able to get more than one table if we wanted to. And, but I can tell you that Miami Beach did a great job with the transportation of the people for Art Basel. The art exhibit was really incredible. The ambient was up there, and I know a lot of people fell in love with the city, and that's gonna be our next fires. I'm sure they didn't buy; they took a look to see, and it was like it's the opposite as Miami in August. It was pleasant. It wasn't cold at all. It was like probably spring. It wasn't feeling like December in Miami either, because last year was cooler. But this year was warmer. Like at night was like 75, 77 degrees. During the day was 85, 89 degrees. It was warm. So very hot. People was on the beach, bikinis, everything that people love about our area. I'm sure a lot of people get excited, and now is the time that they're going to start taking a close look at what they can acquire here, because they're also hearing that the prices are going to correct. This is not secret. Everybody's talking about it. So it's going to be really exciting.
Wow. Okay, a lot to unpack there. Jenny mentioned Lincoln Road. Lincoln Road is a pedestrian mall. It basically goes from the ocean all the way to the bay. It's in and around. It's probably like 16 and a half When you're all the way south in Miami Beach, that's called South Point Drive. That's effectively 0. And as you go north, all the way up to 87 Terrace, which is like 87 and a half, that's going to be the city of Miami Beach. You can go from the Atlantic to effectively the Bay, Biscayne Bay, and or the intercoastal. So, Jenny, I want to talk about Lincoln Road, but first, let me give some people some idea about economic impact. So the idea is when you come for the winter buying season, what you're doing is you're coming here for some reason, and then you fall in love with the climate, you fall in love with the environment, the energy. You say, I've been working all my life, I've been working hard, I deserve to have a condo, or maybe one of many condos, and then you go and you start condo shopping. So that's typically how it goes. Many of these deals end up closing up in the summer, the first half of the summer buying season, which is going to go from May through ultimately October. But Jenny, to put some economic numbers on it, according to the South Florida Business Journal, what they're saying is it's somewhere in the vicinity of $565 million is generated by this Art Basel event, because people coming in from all over the world. And if you're wondering, if you're playing at home, 3-day event, that's $188.3 million a day in economic impact. And as we all know, there's 24 hours in a day. That means they're effectively making $7.8 million in economic impact per hour during the course of this Art Basel event, just to sort of give you some context. So it really is a major issue. It's a major initiative. And many people, they'll come in for Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving, which is like the last Thursday in November. Then they end up staying. They stay through the, through the beautiful time down here and the terrible weather up north before ultimately going back home. So that's kind of the big context. But Jenny mentioned Lincoln Road. And what's critical about Lincoln Road is it is this pedestrian mall. It's an area that's very popular. I don't know how many Starbucks are on there. It's like 3 Starbucks or something. The whole thing is only like, there's only one now. Okay.
Yes, one. One survived. The other 2 are gone.
Okay, but there's an Apple store. You got a lot of the international brands. They have their locations there. Jenny, what is it? 6 blocks long or so? You walk from basically Washington to Alton. It's like 6 blocks, 8 blocks
Probably
maximum.
more, 8 blocks. Yeah, I think it's like 8.
8 blocks maximum. Okay, but this is typically the place a lot of people go because it's a pedestrian mall. You have restaurants and retail on both sides. In the middle, there's artwork. There's
it's
tables
beautiful.
and chairs. Yeah, it's
pretty.
a cafe culture with all kinds of subtropical plants and things like that. Jenny, what time did you get to Lincoln Road for it to be dead? Because it is normally always slammed.
I know. It was 9 p.m.
9 p.m. So people are just getting ready.
9.
They're just getting ready to go to dinner because they go to dinner, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, like in Barcelona or like in Spain or something. So, wow, nobody's there.
No, I was very surprised. But I also had to add that Art Basel has also, as I mentioned, they have, public art in Design District. Also,
which is on the mainland.
Yeah.
On the
Also,
mainland,
downtown had a lot of events, and this time was music related. They have these famous DJs. They have this super famous DJ called Black Coffee.
Okay.
In the old court, in the building at the court, and they had thousands of people on Saturday night there. So all these people were going to the parties, and I believe that's why the effect of having so many places to go, Wynwood. The people in the city, a lot of them don't want to venture to go to the beach. They don't want to do the boat. They don't want to walk because it's, it takes energy. And they have a lot of different things happening in the same area here in the city. That you have things in, everybody's doing Art Basel events. All the new buildings are having open house, so you can go and see. They team up with artists, so they have artists showing off on the set center. I knew the Mandarin has it, Faina has it. I went to an event at the Miami Tropical St. George where I met the guy from Pushfer, the interior designer, and they talk about what inspired them about any particular property. In this case, all the South America lush and tropical art. That's why it's colorful, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff that how in-house artist that was there, also Canadian, was featured. So there were so many things happening at the same time that I believe that's why I wasn't expecting to find a table in Lincoln Road. So I was pleasantly surprised for me, but not so much for the restaurant owners, you know?
And for anybody wondering, that actual exhibit at Miami Beach Convention Center, the real Art Basel, the reason why they
Yes.
do this event. Yeah, so if you're a resident, it was $68 per day. If you were coming in, it's just somebody else, it was $88 unless you decided to
Hmm.
opt for a weekend pass, which was $160 or so. Times are tough. Affordability is a real issue. Everybody's talking about it, even though some are denying it. It's
Yeah.
an issue. So maybe, Jenny, it's a possibility that people just simply said, I don't want to go all the way over to the South Beach for Art Basel because that's where the exhibition
Yes.
center is. I don't want to deal with the parking nightmare trying to get a spot. I don't know how much parking is going to be in a garage. Let me just stay in the mainland. There's so many different events.
Hmm.
Another issue is if, in fact, you live on the mainland, which many people do, and you go over to the Barrier Island for Art Basel, you got to take an Uber back. And it is legendary, the surge pricing
Yeah.
in the slow moving response. So I almost wonder if, based on what you're saying, I'm almost wondering if just the success of Art Basel is ultimately
No,
leading
don't get me wrong.
to
It was a
this.
lot of people. It was a lot of people there. Remember, this is more than one day.
Yep.
I only had the weekend to check out because I also came to the city, and on Sunday I saw Context and Miami Art. I didn't make it to Red Dot in Wynwood. It was not enough time for me to check everything, but no, it was a good crowd, and it's different crowds as well. Because when you see the crowds of the Basel, I know because I went with clients that they wanted to buy pieces for the new condos. So it's just a different crowd. It's like there is really something for everybody. It depends on your budget or what you want to do. It's always an option. But when you have too many options, then the crowds spread around. It's not the
It's
same
like
that was all contained, you know?
It's like going to the Cheesecake Factory. If anybody's ever been to that restaurant, the Cheesecake Factory, there's got to be like 30 pages of menu items. You go through that damn thing, you don't know what the hell to choose because it's got like everything. So it's almost like too much. Then you're like,
Yeah,
okay, what do I sort of do with it?
right.
Interesting, Jenny. Interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
that was interesting.
Jenny. What one of the big reasons they push this, A, is the art, but B, real estate makes the world go around in South Florida, and in fact, the entire
Hmm.
state of Florida. We don't have state income tax. So the city, the county, and the school boards, they're all funded for the most part by property taxes. Property taxes come from when people buy condos. And if you're a resident, you're able to cap in what your tax exposure is every year. But if you're a new buyer, you're coming in at a higher price, most likely, and you can't cap it. So as the prices adjust, your property taxes go up more and more and more. And typically, property taxes are about 2%, with about a
Yeah,
third going to the county, a third going to the city, and a third going to the school board. So that's why everybody's pushing Art Basel. It's effectively a draw to get people into town, to fill the hotels, to fill the Airbnbs, to fill the restaurants, even though they weren't on Lincoln Road apparently on Saturday night, and ultimately to buy
yeah,
real estate so we can keep our economy humming. And more importantly,
absolutely.
so the county can pay for all the bonds it's issued using tourist taxes to cover the infrastructure work that's going on here. So that's why it's so important. That's why it's so
Hmm.
critical. Jenny, from a perception perspective, what would you rate this? This sounds like an A+
No,
in
it
terms of
was,
the
I
energy.
mean, from my point of view, was an A+. It was a great atmosphere. It wasn't rowdy or anything out of control. It was
Okay.
pleasant. The people was dressed for the occasion. A lot of people. It was really good for uh, people, for looking at the people how were dressed up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was a great experience from my point of view. Why? Because I know the times. For example, I knew that I cannot try to come back to the beach after 11 because after 11 everybody's coming toward the city to go to the clubs, to space and all that. So you had to either go before 11 to the city or like 2 in the morning because otherwise you're going to be stuck in the causeway. But that's the knowledge of the local that people that visit have no idea. It's the same with
I-
condos,
Interesting.
you know?
Jenny, the International Boat Fair boat show that goes on in Miami Beach as well as the Coconut Grove Arts Festival. That's another big weekend when everything is sort of going on. So you got people coming in for art, Coconut Grove Arts Festival, and boats, Miami Beach International Boat Show.
Mm.
Um, How would you compare Art Basel? Has Art Basel morphed into effectively just as popular? I mean, from what you've seen, and obviously we haven't gone through the 2026 version of it yet, but
Mhm.
is it now on par with what you get that weekend in February when the Coconut Grove Arts Festival and the Miami Beach Boat Show is going on?
As far as public art, no
Well, no,
comparison.
just in
Uh,
terms of people here and just the tonnage, everything is packed and it's impossible to get anything.
yeah.
What was it to that extent, or is it still lesser then?
No, I think as both of them are really, really busy. They're just different sort of product. One is trying to buy yachts or boats, and the one is trying to buy art. Not obviously people who like boats wants waterfront living because that's what
Yep.
they're used to. So it's a good way to get the people. Not that we need to sell Miami. Miami sell itself,
Yes.
but the atmosphere, I think, is something that you cannot duplicate in many other cities in the United States. And I
Yeah.
think, uh, you know, whoever is agree with us or with me, in my opinion, the Latin flavor makes this place a little bit more spicy, than other places in the same state, for that matter. But that's just my opinion, and many people may agree with me. So I don't know what it's about Miami, but it's probably that. It's just like so festive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Jenny, quick question. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but we're living through a time now with an anti-immigrant philosophy coming out of the White House. We have a pop-up detention center called Alligator
Mhm.
Alcatraz out in the Everglades. Some have claimed that this is going to have a chilling effect in terms of international people coming in, especially those from Latin America, which represent about, they're a big chunk of the 49% of buyers consuming pre-construction condo towers. Did you notice anything just in terms of the vibe? Was it the same mix as usual, or is it dominated by people who maybe weren't coming from Latin America? Any
Mm,
initial reaction, or is it just like it's always been? Because this is kind of a high, this is like an affluent type of event, art
right.
collectors, stuff like that. You're not going to get somebody who maybe came over the border illegally,
Yeah.
who's swinging a hammer coming out to this event. But what
Yeah.
would you say about the audience?
Good question. I think a lot of people, or the few conversation I had about it, really not much. Was more like it's like a reality show. A lot of people don't like what is happening in that sense, but at the end, it it doesn't affect you. That you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
overlook it or ignore it, or you're such in vacations mode that
yeah.
it's not something
But
that I
but you didn't
was
notice
able to
anything.
see.
You didn't notice anything dramatically different from previous years of Art Basel. It still
No,
felt the same way
I still saw a lot of people from everywhere.
from everywhere. Okay,
Mhm.
fantastic. So Art Basel, Jenny, we're using that as basically our entry point into taking a look at what's going on in the Miami Beach condo market. Now, I will
Okay.
tell everybody, you're tuning in live. You're watching this live. The Miami Condo Mondays, we do it every Monday at 4 p.m. I actually do a podcast every day, work day at 4 p.m. And we do it for free because we're live streaming it. The on-demand version is going to be available probably a couple hours after this is done. But then it's going to be on demand. And on demand means in order to get access to the entire thing, you got to have to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Something to check out if you are somebody interested in condos, whether you're selling them, you're investing in them, you're financing them, you're regulating them, any of that type of stuff. We follow the condo market very strictly, closely, and been doing it for decades and decades and decades. So I was just sort of throwing that out there to you. So you're watching it live, you get to enjoy it. But if you want to watch anything on demand, and we have a big library of all the stuff we're tracking, trying to provide real-time information to what's really going on in the condo market, moving it away from a lot of the rosy convention or visitor bureau stuff you're going to get from the sell side portion
Okay.
of the industry. Jenny's a licensed real estate agent, or excuse me, broker. She's also a realtor. So she works both sides, but she primarily, her specialty is on the buy side. She takes listing, but she's also on the buy side. But I wanted to kind of put that out there to you guys. And why do I say that? Because now we're going to show some numbers. We're going to show you some real numbers. This is why you turn into the live podcast. If you don't want to spend the money to join the club, you tune in for this. So,
No,
Jenny,
they should subscribe because it's just an investment. Because you can go back in history. The beautiful thing about having your information is that you can compare. It's not like you saw something and you print it out. No, you can compare with the past and you can take advantage of your analysis and all the valuable information. So subscribe, everybody.
Well said. Well said, Jenny. Let's go ahead. Let's give people a snapshot. Where are we right now in the Miami Beach condo market? Remember, the condo market, Miami Beach, is going to be from government cut. There's a place called Fisher Island. Fisher Island used to be part of Miami Beach. The feds came in there and they cut through it in like 1905 or something in order to create a harbor. Ultimately, where Museum Park is, that's where you got the George Perez Art Museum and you got the Philip Frost Science Museum. That used to be the actual port. And Jenny, I was doing some research, and what's kind of interesting? Do you know where the Coast Guard Center is? Like when the Coast Guard, when they go out there and well, I guess they blow them out of the water now, but back in the day when people were smuggling in drugs, the Coast Guard would catch them, they'd bring them in. So there's a little point right there as you enter into government cut. On the south side is going to be Dodge Island, which is a man-made island. That's part of Miami. And then on the north side, you're going to get the Coast Guard station. Jenny, the original port, the entryway, when you came in through government cut, you didn't go straight where Dodge Island is. You hung a right. You know where the bridge is that goes over the Coast Guard station taking you into 5th Street in South Beach?
Yes. Uh-huh.
That was the path to get to the port.
Oh.
I saw some photos. They actually there was like a sandbar right there from the government cut and everything. So they actually had to go back, and then they created Dodge Island, which is immediately south of it. So when you came in, you had to hang a right away and hug around south of 5th.
Okay.
And cruise around to ultimately where you have Sunset Island, Star Island, Hibiscus Island, all that. So that was sort of the path, just to give you an idea. And by the way, Jenny, the MacArthur Causeway, which is named after the general from World War II, that opened, what was it? I think 1920. I've been getting into all this like historical stuff. By the way, if
That's
anybody
very
is
cool.
interested, there's a local historian called Casey Paquette. If you go to MiamiCondo.club, you look at like some of the people I recommend. Casey's one of them, and he's going through and tracking all this, and he's pulling photos, archive photos from newspapers and stuff like that. So just talking about Miami Beach, I wanted to kind of give you some of these details. But Jenny, let's get into Miami Beach numbers. Again, it's going to go from government cut all the way at the tip, which had been cut off and Fisher Island was created, all the way up to 87 Terrace. Where is 87 Terrace? Well, on the south side of 87 Terrace, this is a project called 87 Park. On the north side, it was where the Champlain Towers South collapsed.
Yeah.
That's right where it went down. So Surfside's this town or village. I don't know what the exact title is. I don't think it's a full-fledged city. It's all based on population numbers. But on the north side of 87th Terrace is going to be where the brand new condos going up. But that was the site of the original Champlain Tower South. When it collapsed, nearly 100 people died, and a $1 billion settlement was paid out to the families of the victims. What happened as a result of Champaign's collapse back in June of 2021? State legislature put in place a number of different directives, I would argue, on behalf of the insurance company, because no insurance company wants to insure anything if they don't know what it is. And the real big takeaways of that is these buildings, all condos in Florida now, they have to do a structural integrity reserve study every 10 years. And at year 30, based on their certificate of occupancy, they have to turn around and do something called a milestone inspection. Inevitably, these studies, Jenny, which are done by licensed architects, licensed engineers, they lead to special assessments. They also lead to higher maintenance fees. So we have this situation going on right now where many of the studies are done. They were all supposed to be done at the end of last year. This time last year, they're supposed to be done. They didn't get it done for a variety of different reasons. Some associations didn't want to do it. Others couldn't find the architects and engineers willing to go ahead and do these inspections. But we're getting close. But what happens come January 1st? Now you got to start putting money in reserves. You got to put the money in reserves. And as a result of that, everybody's condo costs are going up dramatically. And based on what the inspections say, they're telling you for the next 10 years or so, this is the shelf life of the roof, of the facade, of this, of that. This is how much it's going to cost. And the boards are required to bang all the unit owners to start collecting the money to pay for the work that's necessary. The legislature gave some exemptions. They gave up to a 2-year basically exemption where you were collecting money, but you didn't have to have it all. You could collect it for certain pieces, whatever the case may be. But basically, come January, everybody has to start putting money in reserves or the association has to get a loan. Jenny, I did a podcast last week with a guy who runs a property management company. He said one of his clients, one of the associations, they had to go to a hard money lender to take out a loan to cover the work. And you know what the interest rate is on that? Right now, a mortgage is about 6.3, 6.4, despite 2 rate cuts by the Federal Reserve and another one probably coming in this week. So if you get a mortgage like 6.3, 6.4, which is what these loans typically are, This association that the guest I had on last week, Jose Pasos, he's got a company called A Smart Cam. Anybody can go to MiamiCondo.club and you can watch it.
I
Well, you can
saw
see the
it,
first
yeah.
20 minutes. Yeah, you can see the first 20 minutes unless you're a club member, because remember, it's on demand. He said their interest rate, Jenny, for a 25-year loan to fix up their condo, 9%. That's a
And
hard
that's
money loan.
actually it's actually cheaper than I thought. I thought it was gonna be like 12%.
Oh, you thought it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So 9%. So everybody, where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? Is the cost of condo living is going up right now because we're dealing with Surfside. We're dealing with the legislation. We're dealing with the fact that we need to evaluate these buildings. Miami Beach has got a lot of older projects. Those Art Deco that you look at and you love, or some of the buildings that have been standing there for quite some time that you love. These are the ones that are under scrutiny right now. So we're going to give you a glimpse of what's going on right now in the condo market. We're going to break it down to 3 neighborhoods. We're going to have South Beach, we're going to have Middle Beach, and we're going to have North Beach. The way to think about it is all the way to the south, that's going to be the wealthy. All the way to the north, that's going to be people who work in the hotels, the clubs, and basically work for the wealthy. In the middle, it's going to be a combination. It'll be snowbirds, it'll be others, but that's the way to think of it. North is cheaper. That tends to be the labor. South is going to be the fat cats who want to live close to what they call the circus. These are the pretty people, the parties, but they don't want to live with them. They want to live near, but not necessarily with them. Jenny, am I getting anything wrong about my overview about Miami Beach?
No, your overview is good, but however, I think we start experiencing pockets of super rich people going north. Why? Because the land is only so much. So in South Point, to have waterfront is really, really small. And you're paying premium dollars and you're not on the same. So for example, Surfside went through a incredible renovation. Mid Beach also got a couple of super luxury towers. They knocked down the existing towers. And we start seeing that in North Beach as well. While 20 years ago was, as you just described it, I think some of the super luxury towers start popping up here and there, even though the neighborhood is not, it's not homogeneous, if you want to use a nice word. you know.
Yeah, but remember, we've been on a run. I would argue we haven't corrected since we began in 2012, following
True.
the great South Florida condo boom and bust of 2002 to 2011. So I would argue we've been on a run, and that's why you're seeing the wealthier people go north. That's only simply because of pricing. But as we all know, trees do not grow to the moon. And therefore, some of these people, they might be on the wrong side of the trade if, in fact, we get a correction in pricing. But that's something we will discuss going forward, just to give people the context. So, Jenny, let's go ahead. Let's get into the stats. I want people to be able to see exactly what's going on. And remember, you're seeing this now live for free because you tuned in. If you want to see it in the future, you're going to have to see it on demand, and you're going to have to join the club, MiamiCondo.club. Here we go. Jenny, let me share my screen.